Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. So another weird thing happened, but things like that happen all the time around us. And I just wanted to share with you that it wasn't long ago that I posted this movie, Colossus, the Philbin Project, and that was an old movie that was done years ago about a supercomputer that they have recently banned from the US, so people cannot just go in and access it. Maybe they can through other means, and hopefully they can, so they can kind of get an idea of what some of the agenda is. That's typically the reason why they remove some of these movies or TV series. They give people a window to get the disclosure. And I'm not saying this is the ACIO, it has nothing to do with the ACIO, but or maybe some of the shows possibly to try to leak information, but some of this is done by the corporations to sort of brag and let people know, especially a lot of the dystopian movies and TV series, to remind them to submit that this is their future, this is their destiny. And that's not necessarily the case. That's why we're doing this, to kind of bring awareness to what is actually going on. And obviously, Hollywood is producing, or Hollywood in different branches of the film industry is producing these movies. I'm not sure if they understand 100% why they are doing it, other that they are feeling directed to do that, or they feel intrigued by it, or they know the bigger picture and they are involved with it, kind of like The Simpsons, knowing what's going on and pretty much complicit. But um, I don't think all these filmmakers are understanding what's going on. So we put out a reveal about this old movie. I felt very compelled to put it out there. And even though it's not probably the most exciting movie, it's not an action movie, there's not a lot. It's a very simple theme of how um, the supercomputer becomes self-realized, pretty much takes over and then destroys the planet because it makes sense. It uses, utilizing the ability and access to the military to be able to override and take over and do what logically, according to the computer system, seems like the best thing to do. And we also see that in the 100. It's very similar. But getting back to this, so I put out that video, that short video on October 25th. And Super Sleuth sent me an article, and we were laughing. Look at this. So, in November 12th, an article came out in Newsweek. I'm sure that they were planning this. I had no knowledge of it. And they're referring to this also as the Colossus. And I talked about the Colossus, which is, the Colossus of Rhodes, very ancient Greek symbology, statues, and the history of those that we recognize. They call it mythology as the gods. I don't believe that everything that we have seen or heard from what is called quote unquote mythology were actual beings, and whether or not they should be worshipped is entirely up to you, and entirely up to me as well, because I know people try to force certain belief systems on me. And I feel like I have my free choice, as they have their free choice, and we'll leave it at that. But anyhow, here is the statue behind me, and you can see it's in San Francisco. They want to build it in Alcatraz. And let me give you a little bit of a backstory. I'm going to do a shared screen so you can see a little bit more about this agenda. So this article is from Newsweek. It came out November 12th, clearly after I published the video. It's a $450 million American Colossus. That's what they called it. Would be taller than the Statue of Liberty. So a cryptocurrency entrepreneur is trying to get a 450 million statue of the Greek Titan Prometheus. So now they're calling it Prometheus, called the American Colossus, built on Alcatraz Island. Ross Calvin, founder of the Denver-based Bitcoin mining firm Parhelion, and the executive director of the American Colossus Foundation, announced plans to build the monument last March and launched a campaign on Geyser Fund, a Bitcoin-based crowdfunding platform. But only $5 has been raised as of Wednesday morning. In Greek mythology, Prometheus was responsible for creating or aiding humanity. He is said to have defied the Olympian gods by taking fire from them and giving it to humanity in the form of technology, knowledge, and civilization. The American Colossus would dramatically reshape the San Francisco Bay skyline and spark national dialogue about the American identity, technological ambition, and historic landmarks. The statue, intended to stand 450 feet tall in Alcatraz Island, would surpass the height of the Statue of Liberty by 150 feet and reposition Alcatraz from its legacy as a federal prison to beacon of innovation and optimism. The whole project, which would include the statue and connected underground Promethean Museum, is described by Calvin as a monument to the American manifest destiny and aims to celebrate technology, entrepreneurship, and human ingenuity. The proposal envisions a massive nickel bronze statue of Prometheus, the figure Calvin characterizes as the liberator of mankind and the first freedom fighter, along with a museum meant to explore the myth's lessons for technology, creativity, and perseverance. Calvin's ambition is to transform Alcatraz from a defunct federal prison to the symbol of inspiration and progress. Building the statue of Alcatraz would require the island to be reclassified from a national park, part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, to a national monument. This classification would need federal approval and extensive environmental review. As of November 2025, the National Park Service reports it has not received a formal proposal for the project, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. Newsweek has contacted the National Park Service and the American Colossus Project via email for comment. What people are saying: Prometheus is the liberator. He is the first freedom fighter. He's imbued man with the traits that allowed him to free himself, an overcoming will, the vision of technology and entrepreneurship, the capacity to overcome great hardship, and willful expending of one's life in the service of powerful, creative, and noble acts. The ancients understood man as heroic, being possessing of these traits. Prometheus, whose name means foresight, or more precisely, prior to truth, is characterized by the power to dynamically initiate and heroically imprint one's internal blueprint onto the world. This is the essence of manifest destiny, central to the American ethos and the pursuit of happiness, which is the American covenant. Very, very important. Our recent constructive article in Bloomberg made a few omissions which were communicating during fact-checking, but not included. To read, to Calvin, Prometheus exemplifies a fundamental dynamism that defines the West. Never mind the myth's lesson about hubris. So they haven't really started it, but they're already discussing it, and they have drawing boards and digital visions and so forth. Let's take a look at some of the vision. I mean, here's some of the images. There's the Statue of Liberty, and it's sort of a similar kind of stance, one arm raised. Let me see if I can expand this. I don't know if YouTube will allow me to post all this, but there it is. And I also read that Donald Trump also wanted to reopen the prison on top of it also. And apparently this was not the vision of Ross Calvin. But anyhow, another synchronicity for those of you that have known me, even prior to working with Peter the Insider, I was working on Will Spirit Radio, And we had a whole series of channeled information that I received from an Andromedan by the name of Andronicus. And we still have all of those shows available on our channel for people to listen to. Some amazing things came out of that as far as intel and information regarding what's going on. And now we see a full circle of it. The energy at the time that JP was carrying was Prometheus, or they were calling him, the Titans were calling him Primus Teos. I also saw the Titans out west in a portal that they were bleeding through, coming from Titania. And for some of you, this sounds really woo-woo, but hey, I'm going to put it out there. I have been putting it out there, and the synchronicities just keep happening. So maybe you should listen a little bit and think about some of the things that have been said. I think it's very telling and also projecting the state of our world right now. And there's many, many different beings that have been instrumental in trying to help our planet. Not everyone's bad. Like the corporations, obviously, have lost any kind of soul consciousness and concern for humanity. We're going in the opposite direction. Let's find those that do care about us. And I know that some people speak really badly about the Andromedans, and there's others that claim to connect to the Andromedans. Um, that's for them, and that's for you to look at and make a decision. But the ones that I was interacting with, I felt was very genuine, authentic, and real. And the fact that this is happening is not surprising to me at all. So, with that said, take a look at everything, maybe review Colossus, look at the story of what happened in Rhodes, look at this new project, what it symbolizes. I do I do have an understanding about how the Prometheus was definitely considered a hero of humanity because he brought the fire in to help humanity. Obviously, fire was necessary for cooking, for staying warm and thriving in very cold climates. So, okay, so since we're on the topic of Prometheus, I thought it would be fitting to add this, which just came out in November 17, 2025. So now we have, a little sequence of events. And of course, it's AI. So Jeff Bezos, who is over the Amazon empire, he'll be the co-CEO of an AI startup called Project Prometheus. They said he's getting a new job. We knew he was up to something after the wedding in Venice. And it already has one of the better funded early stage startups in the world with 6.2 billion in investment. And in part from Bezos himself, in addition to financing the venture, he'll help run the company together with co-founder Vic Bajaj. He is a physicist and a chemist who once worked at Google X, the company's experimental moonshot factory, before running health tech company Verily, an Alphabet-owned venture spun out of that division. Project Prometheus reportedly has nearly 100 employees already, including former staff from OpenAI, DeepMind, and Meta. And with Bezos now among them, this will be his first formal operational role as a company since he stepped down as Amazon CEO in 2021. Though since then, he's taken a keen interest in SpaceX, rival Blue Origin, which last week completed the first successful landing of its new Glenn booster. What is this about? It will use artificial intelligence to improve manufacturing for computers, cars, and spacecraft. And why do I have a feeling there's more involved? The ingenuity, fighting through it, the spirit of what Prometheus was said to have done is something worth noting. And if you look at the people that had come over to this country, they worked very hard and they really made a living. And even those that were brought here, without permission also worked very hard, and their ancestry has thrived and gone broken through everything. And the question about who belongs here, who doesn't, um, I think is anyone and everyone who wants to be a part of a community of a nation should be allowed to be here. Anyone that doesn't want to be and that just wants to harm that nation should really just go back to where they love to be. And that's the harmony that we're missing. Um, I know a lot of people are angry about different things, but the spirit of kindness, the spirit of survival, all of these things, when it comes down to it, every single one of us has our needs, our family, our loved ones, our friends, and we should start looking more in that direction rather than following through with the propaganda intentions of what people want for us. Learn to make our own decisions once again, breaking free from the matrix of the mind and becoming who we were intended to be all along and returning back to who we once were, a stronger, more influential, more independent um, race of beings. And especially as the integration of other life is here and present right now, sometimes in many cases, overriding us. We need to start to assert ourselves a little bit more. So, with that said, I love you. Be strong and please add your comments below. Some of you might disagree with the whole ancient gods theory, but and that's fine. Like I said, each one of us come from a history of lore, and there's elements of truth in all of it. And thank you for listening. Have a good day.